Hey everyone, John Henry here, Slingshot Futures Trading Group, SSFTG. Welcome to the video. In this one, we're going to be talking about how I like to find cheap stocks while we're in a bullish market. The market, I mean, it really hasn't stopped going up since like 2008. There's been some decent corrections, 30% or so corrective phases. But, I mean, really, a 30% pullback isn't that bad. And, you know, how do you find a stock that's cheap when everything just keeps going up and up and up? One of my favorite things to do is go over to FinViz and use the screener. And within the screener, there's a lot of different tools inside of here, and we'll go through a few different ways that I like to set this up to try to find or achieve the objective, if you will, of finding cheap stocks while the market is still ripping away. So first off, as far as the settings go, I like to make sure that I'm looking at the proper exchange. So first off, I want to, in this case, we're looking at the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ. I really don't, all of those are fine. What I really care about is that it's inside the US. So we'll swap this country over to the US. I also want to make sure that it's optionable and shortable. I need to be able to have some contingency plans or some ways to add into it or ways to hedge if necessary. And then along with that, as far as price goes, user's choice. I don't like trading stocks that are really over 50 bucks. I find them to be a little bit as far as just personality is concerned. I like stocks that are under 30 if I have a choice. But like we've been talking about, the market hasn't stopped going up. So let's go to under 50 and see if we can narrow that list down. Well, we've got it down to 2,600 stocks so far. We're getting there, right? Now, these are just a few of the basic things that we're looking at. A few other things that can definitely narrow this down, and one thing that I really like is having a positive dividend yield. It doesn't have to be incredible, but just that alone knocked that list off by 50%. So having a positive dividend yield and having at least an average volume of, over 50,000, trading moderate volume if I need to get in, get out, etc. I need to make sure that there's actually a market there. So we've got 913 stocks from that list that we can start working off of as we narrow in further. So the next stop is going to be into the fundamentals. And the fundamentals, this is where I go a little bit overboard because, again, I want to make sure that I'm trading a stock that is following the market in the sense that it's very positive. It's got very bullish undertones and overtones. It's bullish on all regards. It just happens to be in a pullback. So what I like looking at, first off, is EPS growth next 5 years, positive. Okay, that brought that list down to almost half again, 491. Let's go a little bit further. Sales growth over the past 5 years, positive. That knocked another 100 or so off. Now we're at 327. Out of those 327, if we wanted to go further, because there are 327 stocks, that does show us that there are some pretty strong markets. EPS growth quarter over quarter, positive. That's 242. All right. EPS growth this year, positive. Now we're down to 83. Okay. Now we're starting to whittle this thing down a little bit. EPS growth next year, how about positive? Now we're down to 51. Okay. Sales growth quarter over quarter. We've got positive. That is a total of 40. EPS growth over the past 5 years. Positive. Now we've got 24 stocks to work with. Now, 24 stocks, that might not be enough. So remember, every time that we made one of these adjustments, it chunked off a good piece of it. So there are a few ways that we can kind of narrow off of this if we're not getting the results that we want. But the next step is going to be going over to the technical side. The technical side is very, very straightforward. Over the past year, right? Over the past year, if we go year, I want over the past year for it to be up. I don't necessarily care how much up, the more the better, but we just want to filter out any stocks that have been down, right? I'm not interested in them. As far as performance too, really cool that they have this because now we can go and say, well, over the year, it's up, but over the past week, it's down. Now we've got 11 stocks. Now we've got something to work with a little bit more here. So let's flip over to TradingView and take a look at some of these. So the first one in terms of volume that trades the most is 2.2 volume, INVH. Let's take a look, INVH. And we've got, okay, so a very, very nice bullish trend to the upside showing us that this has definitely got some potential. Let's zoom out a little further here. What about the monthly? Yeesh. Okay, so this is an incredibly bullish market to the upside. Holy cow. So this is definitely going to be one that's potentially on my radar that I'm going to want to dig into a little bit more. Now, as far as INVH and going over further analysis, you can dig into stocks any way that you want to, but we know that the fundamentals are very strong. The chart looks real strong, and we've got a slight little pullback, and generally that's a good spot to be looking for. Now, going through a couple other ones, if we wanted to add to our list of 11 stocks, that narrowed it down pretty nicely. The next largest volume is going to be 1.7 at VVV. Valvoline. I think everybody kind of knows that one. So as far as Valvoline goes, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. That's not like we really have to do a whole lot of research into that one, but this is a good example of how you can still get these big name companies that are performing incredibly well, and they just happen to be on a pullback. This is one of my favorite ways to narrow down a list to figure out, hey, you know, what kind of stocks are doing incredibly well. They've got amazing fundamentals, but they just happen to be on a pullback, right? We know markets ebb and flow. We just got to wait for the right ebb to jump in for the flow, right? I think that's how that goes. Either way, that's one of my favorite ways to narrow down a good small list of potential stocks in the short-term plays for just finding stocks that are on the cheap in an overall market that just keeps going up. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below, or if you have a more detailed question, you can always shoot me an email, jhb@ssftg.com. Until the next one, I hope you found this one useful, and we'll see you then. Thanks.